Well, the left-wing group Acorn firing 4 employees so far in the wake of videotapes showing Acorn workers telling a supposed prostitute how to cheat on her taxes. Today, a third tape surfacing. This one, it's all from biggovernment.com, which posted the tape from an independent filmmaker who made it. This last one from Acorn's Brooklyn office.
It's not legal in New York.
So we gotta make.
You can't say what you do for a living.
Mm-hmm. You're self-employed, you're doing freelancing.
Okay.
You gotta start thinking.
Okay.
Well, she's very honest.
Yeah, but honest is not going to get you the house.
Honest is not going to get you the house. Millions of your tax dollars go toward helping Acorn, so is it finally time for that to stop? Republican Congressman Steve King of Iowa is demanding a congressional investigation, and this is not the first time. Congressman, good morning.
Well, good morning, Megan. I do remember another promise that I made that I would not let up. Here's another good reason to turn it up.
How many of these do we need? How many instances of Acorn workers pleading guilty to voter registration fraud, criminal indictments? Now we've got 3 videotapes showing Acorn workers what appear to be telling people how to cheat on their taxes, and not just anybody, but a supposed pimp and a prostitute who want to set up a brothel, and they make clear they want to bring in a dozen plus El Salvadorian underage girls to help them in this prostitution ring. I mean, at what point do your colleagues on Capitol Hill say, you know what, Steve, you're right, we've had enough too. It's time to investigate this group that gets taxpayer dollars.
The point, Megan, is when the media pressure and the public revulsion gets to the point where they feel threatened politically, Acorn is a get-out-the-vote criminal enterprise that works for Democrats almost exclusively in this country. And this network of this criminal enterprise, it goes so broad and so deep: election voter registration fraud, shaking down lenders, that's extortion by a definition that I look up. And if you see that it's endemic, that at least 3 cities will help support and organize and provide for lending to homes of prostitution for underage girls that come from foreign countries that are likely illegal. How many drugs are being dealt out of houses that are facilitated by Acorn? What would they not do? Where would they reach a moral revulsion? So I think this point is, as we keep turning it up, eventually John Conyers has got to reconsider his opinion that we have hearings on Acorn. I don't know that those hearings will be something that we're going to be able to get to the bottom of it, but I think the Department of Justice has to do a complete analysis, a complete investigation of Acorn and its 360 affiliates. I think there needs to be a financial forensic analysis. I think the IRS has got to audit everyone. They've been commingling funds. They're in 120 cities. I don't know how many different community offices they have. And by the way, I went down to Acorn's headquarters in New Orleans and went to the front door, had my picture taken there, and above me is a huge Obama poster, and hanging right beside it is an Acorn flag. Now, they're a 501c3, not-for-profit, nonpartisan, and they're campaigning for the President of the United States in violation of the Internal Revenue laws.
But they divide it up. That's the thing with Acorn, is that they have so many affiliates and subsidiaries, and some are political and some are not, and so that that's how they get away with it, is that, you know, they funnel some funds to the political organization and other funds to the non-political organization, and they claim that there are so-called Chinese walls separating all the organizations, and there are real questions about that. That's where you come in. Here's my question to you. I knew the number was 53 million since 1994, 53 million in taxpayer dollars Acorn has gotten. What I didn't know was, as recently as this past year, 1.6 million has gone to Acorn Housing Corporation. Acorn Housing Corporation, they're the ones who are supposed to be helping low-income families get housing loans. What the kind of work we saw here, except it's supposed to be directed at legitimate applicants. 1.6 million this year alone. Housing and Urban Development has given 8.2 million to Acorn in just 2003 to 2006. 8.2 million. This group is getting millions of taxpayer. I mean, this would be wrong under any circumstances, wouldn't it? But they're taxpayer funded, Congressman. What is it? Conyers? Last time you were on, you said email John Conyers because he called off his investigation, citing the powers that be. Who do the viewers need to contact?
I think they need to contact the President of the United States. When John Conyers refers to the powers that be, it can only be Nancy Pelosi or President Obama. And we cannot forget that President Obama worked for Acorn. He trained Acorn workers. He's been a player. He's been a coach. He's an alumnus of Acorn. And he's hired them in his campaign, and he's hired them to work on the census, and now they say they've severed that relationship. We tried on that months ago and couldn't get them to sever the relationship. Now they seem to be embarrassed to that point. President Obama wears this Acorn label around his neck as well. And this thing goes deep into Chicago politics and in the inner cities across America. We saw into the offices of Acorn. We saw the faces of Acorn in Baltimore and Washington, D.C., and in Brooklyn. And you have to imagine that's going on in every inner city across America where Acorn is set up.
Oh.
We've got to shut off every federal dollar to Acorn. We've got to investigate them thoroughly.
Their chief organizer denies it. She says these are defamatory, that they've been spliced and diced. The filmmaker says no. It's an ongoing dispute. But in the meantime,
Megan,
Congressman
she's
King,
on national TV continually.
She's been all over the airwaves.
Makes a habit of that.
But stand by, sir, because we have another very important topic that we want to get to with you after this break. And we'll be right back to the Congressman, because leading House Democrats are now threatening on another subject to discipline Republican Congressman Joe Wilson. This is the guy who said you lie to President Obama during his speech to the joint session of Congress last week. Well, these top Democrats want another public apology from Joe Wilson. And that man you just heard, Congressman Steve King, has some very interesting thoughts on that.
Did you catch this over?
During his address to the joint session of Congress last week. The outburst coming after Mr. Obama said during that speech that his health care reform plan will not cover illegal immigrants. After the whole event, Wilson called the White House to say that he was sorry, and the president accepted that apology. But now the House Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, among others, says that is not enough. He and other top Democrats want a formal apology on the House floor tomorrow. Wilson says it's not going to happen.
I am not going to apologize again. I apologized to the president on Wednesday night. I was advised then that thank you. Now let's get on to a civil discussion of the issues. But I've apologized one time. The apology was accepted by the president, by the vice president, who I know. I am not apologizing again.
Well, Republican Congressman Steve King of Iowa is still with me. He is a defender of Congressman Wilson and is not by any means behind this push by Steny Hoyer. Congressman King, thank you for staying around. Your response to this push by, I mean, it's the House Majority Leader. It's not some low-level Democrat. He does not think Congressman Wilson has gone far enough.
Well, it's political partisan games going on now in the middle of a national health care debate. If President Obama has accepted Joe Wilson's apology, and Joe Wilson is an officer and a gentleman, and anyone who knows him knows his character, knows how polite and respectful his entire life is. This was a rare, rare thing. Joe was an unlikely person, but he knew the truth. And so he has apologized to the president. The president has accepted the apology. No one on this planet has a claim to an additional claim for redress. The president's good with it. We need to move on. But if they insist on bringing this to the floor of the House of Representatives, we're going to hear more about Nancy Pelosi accusing the CIA of federal felonies of lying to Congress. That's coming up again. We're going to have to take a little more closer look at Charlie Rangel, maybe at Alan Mollahan. Those people are looking at actual investigations, and the investigations are investigating felonies. So if they want to play this, the lid was on this while we dealt with national business. But if they're going to raise this issue to a level and try to put Joe Wilson in the stocks down on the floor of the House of Representatives to score cheap political points, then we're going to have to make sure that we go to the things that really, truly should outrage Americans, and I've named 3 of them. You
know, you call Joe Wilson an officer and a gentleman, and I heard Bill Kristol defending him on Fox News Sunday yesterday. I want to give you the chance to respond to some allegations made by Maureen Dowd in the New York Times over the weekend, who had different things to say about Joe Wilson. She said he belonged to the Sons of Confederate Veterans, led a 2000 campaign to keep the Confederate flag waving above South Carolina State Capitol, and denounced as a smear the true claim of a black woman that she was the daughter of Strom Thurmond, who is a segregationist candidate for president. She would disagree on the officer and a gentleman claim.
Well, he is an officer and a gentleman. Everyone that knows him knows that. The politics of South Carolina, I think you'd have to understand that and to comment on each of those pieces. I've been down there in Joe's district. I was there for tax day on the 15th of April. And being a son of the South puts you in a different position when it comes to the Confederate flag. It means something entirely different to the people who have ancestors that fought in the Civil War on the south side of the Mason-Dixon line. So I think Maureen Dowd is trying to whip this up, and I know she also tried to bring race into it. I didn't know what race she was talking about when I first read her line on that.
What fallout, if any, will there be for Democrats if they push this guy? I mean, President Obama has accepted the apology. He appears ready to move on. If Steny Hoyer and or Nancy Pelosi are not, what, if any, fallout will there be for them?
Well, maybe it will split the Democrats in the House. I don't know. I think that generally they'll adhere to their president. If this gets out of hand, and if the president truly does accept Congressman Joe Wilson's apology, all he has to do is have Rahm Emanuel pick up the phone and tell Nancy Pelosi, call off the dogs. We want to get some business done for America. If the president fails to do that, then you have to believe that he's not ready to sit down and have a beer with anybody over this deal. He's going to be glad to watch the fight instead.
Well, I know that you are asking other congressmen and women to sign a letter in support of Joe Wilson. We'll see how it shakes out. Things could get going as early as tomorrow. Congressman Steve King, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Megan.
Watch that.